this is a 44 Magnum, the most powerful handgun in the world, and will blow your head clean off.
Zhang Weili's road to the top has not been an easy one. Having started her career in 2013, she's put together a record of 21-1 in MMA, acquired a strawweight championship inside the UFC, and has defended that championship once to date. She also has a kickboxing record of 2-2, and one of those she fought in a tournament where she fought 3 times in one night. So I want to talk today about how good is Zhang Weili. So first we're going to look at skills. Now a skill is not a punch or a kick. Those are weapons. Skill is the ability to do something well, and in this case we're talking about fighting skills, defensive skills, and offensive skills. So we're not just talking about punches and kicks alone, but how well can you use those punches and how well can you use those kicks. So we're going to look at infighting and fighting from a distance, and for defensive skills we're going to look at footwork, blocking or shielding as it is called in boxing, as well as head movement. Now, Zhang Weili may be seen as a purely aggressive fighter after her 42-second knockout of Jessica Andrade. However, she's actually more technical in her approach to a fight. That knockout came the way it did mostly because Andrade was being the aggressor, and by being the aggressor, Andrade actually made the job easier for Zhang to finish. Now, when Zhang fights, she comes out in an orthodox stance. She stands up pretty straight, but her chin is not too high. She bounces back and forth on the balls of her feet. And from this position, she has 2 primary weapons. First, she'll use her jab, which she likes to throw very frequently. She'll throw it again and again. And before she even closes the distance where she can throw her jab, she has her hand up, ready to throw it, protecting her from overhand rights coming from her opponent, unless she's fighting a southpaw. But she's going to keep her left hand up pretty high, and she'll usually slap with the hand before she starts jabbing again and again. Now, as she's jabbing, she's doing 2 things. 1, she's measuring to see how far her opponent is from her. And 2, she's setting up her right hand, which she likes to throw extremely hard. Now, aside from her jab, she also uses her left kick, which is very similar to the way you use a jab, in her case especially because she's using it. And usually when she uses her left kick, she wants to buckle her opponent's right leg, which lowers their jaw, exposing them to her left hook. Now you can see in her fight with Andrade, she started out very earnestly throwing her jab, but she was patient to throw the right hand. She keeps her head erect, but she doesn't lean in too deeply on the jab. She uses her feet to go in and out very smoothly. And if the jab cannot find the home, or her opponent evades both her jab and her right hand, that's when she's going to switch to that kick, which she throws to the leg. Now against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she did very well standing up. But as far as the fighting from a distance, I think that Joanna got a little better than Zhang of the exchanges. Zhang's victory in that fight to me, which was much closer than her fight with Andrade. The fight with Andrade was over in 42 seconds. But fighting at a distance, I think Joanna got a little bit better for the exchanges, especially in the first round and the second round. However, she had to fight against a much more dangerous opponent who was more technical than Andrade was. Andrade is pretty much, she has a very brawler-like style. She likes to swing both hands extremely wide. She's there to be hit. She'll take pauses. Joanna is constantly moving, very similar in the way that Zhang likes to move. She's a little less bouncy, but she's not as static. And you want to keep moving and fighting. Fighting is very similar to a game of tag. You want to touch somebody, but you don't want to get touched at the same time. So for fighting from a distance, how good is Zhang? I want to put her in the top 3, and the only reason I'm not putting her in the top 2, even though she beat Joanna, like I said, there were other factors that went into that, and we're going to see that when we move on to infighting. But she has not fought Rose Namajunas yet, and Rose Namajunas, although she was very scrapper fighter early, after she changed camps and started training differently, she fights very good at a distance, and like I said, like Joanna and Zhang, she's also constantly moving. She's very good as well. But as far as that, I think those 3 are top 3 in the strawweight division, especially Joanna, Zhang, and Rose. Hopefully we get to see Zhang fight Rose, and then we'll see how accurate I was with the breakdown. Infighting or firefighting. In a firefight, the most precise fighter is always going to be the deadliest. They prevailed even over the faster fighter in a lot of cases. And this is one thing my coach always shows me all the time. He said, a slow guy like me can hit a fast guy like you because I have the timing and I have the precision down. Now, Zhang's best example of infighting, it has to be when she took the belt from Andrade. That is actually her shortest fight to date. She has a lot of TKOs and a lot of KOs on her record, some coming in the second round, a few coming in the first round, but this was actually her best performance at what many consider to be the highest level of competition when it comes to combat sports, as far as free fighting goes, or MMA, as people call it. Now, in this fight, Zhang actually tried to maintain the distance, which she did very well initially, using her jab and using her footwork, her leg kicks. But Andrade kept on applying pressure to Zhang. And Zhang threw a leg kick to keep her at bay and followed that by a left hook to the jaw, which a lot of people probably didn't catch. She landed twice. The first time was more noticeable as it rocked Andrade and it momentarily stopped her in her tracks. Zhang took a step back, evading Andrade, wide left hook, and nailed her with the right hand that landed flush. Zhang then used her takedown defense when she was up against the cage. And she's very good at using the cage as a tool to stay bridge and attack Andrade with knees to the body and inside elbows. And after receiving the damage, Andrade broke the clinch and she tried to recover, but by this point it was too late. And when Zhang has an opponent severely hurt, she turns to the pressure. She's like a shark that smells blood in the water. And she rushes forward and tries to finish her opponent every single time. And even though this may appear as purely aggressive, she is doing this very carefully. She'll occasionally throw ones and twos off balance, but only when she knows her opponent is hurt. This is the main reason Joanna, who also has a Thai background, was not able to seriously hurt Zhang coming in. Zhang never turned up the pressure to the point where she was in serious danger. If she starts to do so, she'll regroup and she'll go in the defensive mode. So inside the pocket, I like to say Zhang is number one in her division. Zhang not only thrives in the firefight, she actually seeks to create it. And she does so technically, not haphazardly. She seeks to put her opponent in the worst position possible before unleashing every weapon in her arsenal on them from different angles. So for infighting, I'd say in her division, right now, Zhang is number one. And for grappling. Now, Zhang is extremely famous for her abilities on the feet, but her grappling is top-notch as well. She has taken down almost every opponent she has faced that did not end with her knocking them out, and most notably Tessia Torres, and she also took Joanna down. Now, she wasn't able to capitalize on Joanna as much as she did against Tessia Torres in their fight, but Joanna has excellent takedown defense. Her takedown defense, I believe, is 83.5%, so 83.5%. Or if you round it up, 84% of the time, she's able to stop her opponent's takedowns. Now, that said, Zhang's attacks are very similar to Japanese wrestling like sumo or judo, as she tries to use trips to take her opponent down and use their momentum against them. You won't see her shooting for a double leg or a single leg to initiate a takedown. She'll grab her opponent, usually getting an overhook and an underhook. She usually has the left hand under and the right hand over, tries to put you in a headlock, and then slam you onto the ground. And Zhang will often grab her opponent following her right hand, whether it lands or not. In her fight with Joanna, she did this quite a few times to initiate the clinch, but Joanna was able to get the better of her inside the clinches. She was able to take Joanna down, but she wasn't able to capitalize. And Joanna was actually very astute. She was very defensive, and she was able to get back up on her feet quickly. The thing about Zhang is her strength in this position. She doesn't need to drive her opponent to the cage to take them down. And I think that has to do with her having fought a large portion of her fights inside of a ring instead of fighting inside a cage. She's very adept at putting her opponent on the ground, using either their momentum against them or just her own strength. Now, while a testament to her strength, this style of wrestling is very taxing on the body and it is exhausting. It also leaves her vulnerable to strikes, which she has an opponent pressed against the cage. As I mentioned earlier, Zhang will use the cage to keep herself standing up because the cage is used as a tool. Her opponent, at a more elite level, like Joanna is, was able to do the same thing against Zhang, most noticeably in the second round of her fight, which I actually gave that round to Joanna because she was able to defend the takedowns, which, like I said, that's exhausting to you, but also Zhang was very open to elbows and knees, which Joanna threw against her. The only time Zhang has been taken down was by Tessiatoris. However, she was able to quickly reverse the position. Because when someone shoots in for a takedown, Zhang makes sure to she gets her over and her underhooks in. She also keeps very good base control. She'll have one leg out. So she's planned for this. She's prepared for it. She will allow her opponent to take them down. She won't try to stuff the takedown if she's out in the open. If she knows she's going to the ground, she'll go down, but then she'll use that person's momentum of the takedown against them, and she'll quickly reverse the position. And when she's on top, she's free to throw some heavy ground and pound. And we see this mostly in a lot of her early fights. She'll take her opponent down and she'll apply very good pressure. One thing that I like about Zhang, she reminds me a bit of Khabib. She will not just get on top and start throwing ground and pound. She'll wait until she gets her opponent in a very, very bad position, and she's able to do a lot of damage from that position without allowing herself to be attacked. She'll make sure she gets the full mount on her opponent before throwing strikes for serious ground and pound. She makes sure she puts the weight on the chest, which is what you need to do because it's almost impossible for somebody to buck you off from this position, especially when you're controlling their shoulders and you're controlling their hips. If you're controlling their shoulders and their hips, there's not much they can do from that situation. She also will attempt arm bars from this position. She won one of her early UFC fights with a triangle/arm bar submission. But on the ground, again, her division, I still put her as one of the best at the strawweight. And once she gets on, it's just almost impossible for you to get her off. She sticks to her opponents like glue, and then she just pounds them away bit by bit, chipping down and down. This is when she's in full mount. Now, when she's in side control, she prefers to use her elbows instead, which is how she won her fight against Tessiatoris. For the majority of the last round of their fight, she was on top and just dropped ground and pound. She didn't do a whole lot of damage. She didn't open up a whole lot of cuts, but she was clearly in complete control of her opponent. And she didn't stop and just let the clock run out. Whenever she's on the ground, she likes to work. So as far as her grappling goes, I believe Zhang Weili is number one inside of her division. I do believe Rose Namajunas would be the biggest challenge to her in this position, since Rose does have some submission wins and she has a very good ground game. But as far as strength goes, the skill and the experience of Zhang, I think it's greater than Rose in all those areas, especially in the strength and the experience. And like I said before, she's going to have better takedown abilities than Rose is, just based on the fact that she spent so much time fighting in a ring instead of a cage. So she's more adept at getting the person on the ground without using the cage as a tool, using purely skill and her strength. So overall, that's my complete belief about how Zhang is as far as her skills and her abilities go. She does have a few gifts, and one of them being her chin. The woman is just extremely hard to knock out. She has not been dropped in 21 fights in a row. She's on a 21 fight win streak. The last fight that she lost was her first fight when she made her pro debut, and after that she focused strictly on fighting. She quit her job and just focused on fighting, and ever since then it's been nothing but win. So I believe that she can hold that belt for a while. Like I said, her fight with Joanna was close, so I still think Joanna can be a threat in that division for her. Rhodes, of course, abilities are also going to pose a threat. So we're going to see if Zhang truly is number one in her division and see if I was correct or wrong. The breakdown of how I think that fight will go, I will be doing that in the future, so look forward to seeing that one. Thank you everybody for watching. Please like, subscribe, share the video. Let me know what you would like to see next, any breakdown you'd like to see in the future. I'm also going to be releasing one on my thoughts on Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. And you can watch this video here, where I broke down the fight between Michael Bisping and Luke Rockhold and how he knocked him out. Thanks for watching.